Okay, everybody had a good GDC so far? Cool. So my name is Chris Walker, and I'm here to talk about a game called SineRider. And so who here had a graphing calculator in high school? So who of those people would like sit and just kind of like play with the graphing capability and like plug in functions, like draw shapes or like, you know, just play around with it? Like most of you. I mean, it's like this weirdly universal experience for geeky, high school kids with graphing calculators to just kind of play with it a lot. And so I, decided that like there was something to this idea of like playing with numbers and graphs, and decided to combine that with, one of my other favorite high school pastimes, which is SineRider. And so, the result is this like weird game where instead of like drawing a line that you sled on top of, which was SineRider, you graph a line, and you just kind of get this like sledding puzzle like math fusion game that is kind of funky. This too is a free game that no one wants to pay money for. So anyway, so at the beginning of the game, the puzzles kind of start out like this, where you have some boxes in a line, and they're all you're basically just like fitting a curve to this. So let's just change this. I'm editing this down here, by the way, if you can't tell. So let's change this to x over 2 minus 6. We get a line that matches up pretty neatly, and the boxes turn green and get a little complete thing, mission accomplished. And this is kind of cute. It's neat. Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. But it's not really all that deep. Like, there's not actually all that much you can do with this. You can only go downhill, and it doesn't actually get all that interesting until we skip ahead like 20 levels in the tutorials to time. And so here you can see that we've got this like moving pink thing, and that's because for a function like y equals negative t, as time goes up, the line goes down. So this is important because now all of a sudden, like, these graphs are these moving things that are more interesting than just like a static hill. So if we change this to positive t, then as t goes up, the line goes up. So there are like a lot of things that you can do with this concept, just because like there are so many mathematical functions out there, and there's just a lot of like very simple ways to make this interesting. And so if we skip ahead a couple more levels, we have this kind of moving sine wave thing. So again, let's just change a couple things here, because if we just hit play with the prompt that it gives us, we're moving downhill. Let's make this a little bit steeper. Let's see, and change this to, let's see, minus t times 2, make it go a little faster. Yeah, and if we hit enter, now we are actually sledding uphill on like this escalator type thing. So this is the kind of like really weird stuff that you can do once you have a time variable. Okay, so the puzzles again, like they get a lot more interesting with just a few simple tweaks. So if we skip ahead to these. This is actually in like the unguided non-tutorial section. So it would actually start off with y equals 0, but I filled out some of the solutions just for the talk. So with this one, we have this concept of ordering now, where we have A and B, and you have to hit A before B. If it was BA, we could just make a very gentle slope, and it would be a very simple puzzle. But instead, we have this, where we have to get over B somehow, or under it, or around it. And there's a million ways to do this, but one really interesting way, I think, is if we just hit play, we can see that we have a parabola multiplied by a sine wave, which then carries us up and over, and then back down and into B. So one of the next things that I added was this concept of what I call snowballs, which are basically just they're balls that roll around with the graph. They're dynamic objectives. So with this solution here, we have this parabola that moves upwards and carries us into the static box, and those balls they all roll towards the center. So there's a lot that you can do with this concept too, and you can do some really interesting things when you combine it with other mechanics like ordering. So if we skip ahead one puzzle here, we have a similar sort of thing where we have all these balls that are hanging in the air, and like, if we have a parabola like this, we hit enter, then they all move towards the center, but you'll notice that they'll actually hit us in the wrong order. And so, we need to reverse them somehow and get A, B, C instead of C, B, A. So, there's many ways to do this, but my personal favorite here, if we just change that exponent from 2 to 4, then we get a graph that is steeper the farther, that gets steeper faster the farther out you go. So the ones on the edges will accelerate faster than the ones towards the middle, and they reverse themselves. Just by combining these simple elements, now these properties like acceleration are relevant, and you get these really interesting, just sort of emergent puzzles out of a few basic elements. So if we keep going, these puzzles just keep getting more and more complicated, and no, not that one. The puzzles get more and more complicated, and the functions get longer, and you can see down here it's getting a little bit more convoluted, and like you could set up graphs that sort of like rearrange the things live, and it's just things can get really weird really quickly. There's again all these different ways to approach it, and the game is really about figuring out these different strategies and abstracting them and reapplying them to other puzzles. One of the other things that I thought was really cool about having a graphic calculator in high school is that it actually taught me like a lot of things that I didn't learn in high school math class, like in the classes that I had the calculator for. So one of those things was polar coordinates. I never learned about this in high school math, and yet my calculator introduced me to this concept, and obviously polar coordinates is a very useful concept. So I thought that was really neat, like that the machine actually like taught me something. So I wanted that to be reflected here. So I added a polar coordinates mode, and the puzzles they just kind of change flavor here because everything is done in terms of trig functions. So we have like a similar sort of out of order puzzle where we need to hit A before B. So we have a function that carries us up and around, and the gravity here is radial, so it points towards the center. So we can solve puzzles by just creating these weird contraptions that carry us around. So another interesting thing that you can do is you can actually create puzzles that are not just like interesting, clever solutions, but are actually like really cool looking and pretty. So for this one, we have all these balls kind of lined up in linear order here, where we have to hit A, B, C, D, E. If we were to just like create a slope, then they would be rolling away from us as we're sledding towards them. So instead, what we can do is instead of sledding towards the balls, we can have the balls come to us, they just get kind of carried into our stationary sledder. This is neat because it's a puzzle that's actually it's visually appealing, and I think that was one of the really fun things about the calculator, is that like it produced these beautiful patterns as well as ones that were like cerebrally interesting. Another just like the puzzle that I want to end on is this one. So this is a crazy monstrosity of a function. It is 220 characters long. It's basically a paragraph, it has this interesting quality where it's not really like a graph anymore so much as just like a math sculpture, because like it kind of has this mechanical aspect to it. So we go A, B, C, D in alternating order. This is I think really neat because I wanted to wrap up on this puzzle because even though the solution here is by the metrics of the game like technically like a bad solution because it's like long and slow, I still think it's brilliant and it's fun and it's crazy, that's like a reflection of the ethos that I want SineRider to embody. I made this game largely because I'm really frustrated with how math is taught in schools. Like when a math teacher hands you a problem, there's only one like right answer. There's only one way to do it. It's never a real puzzle. It's really kind of bland and like very linear, and there's no like immediate satisfying feedback. So in this game, each puzzle has an unlimited number of solutions. It's technically infinite. There is immediate satisfying visual feedback. And most important, you find the answers through playing with symbols instead of memorizing them. Because I don't actually think that most math classes encourage students to understand solutions, but rather just to remember them. And then they forget them after the test. So So yeah, so I actually learned a lot by playing with my calculator, and I think a lot of other people, could do the same. And I actually learned more from the calculator, I think, than most of the classes that I had to have it for. And some of the things that I learned are that math can be fun, it can be playful, it can be creative, it can be beautiful. And so, I just want SineRider to help people see math the way that mathematicians see it. Because, mathematicians don't look at math as like like this banal set of procedures. They look at it as, like this creative and, like fun and playful process of exploration and discovery. So, if you or someone never came to love math in high school, then I sincerely hope that SineRider can help you, see a different side of this very important and very beautiful, and I think very underappreciated field of study. So, yeah, thank you very much. SineRiderGame.com. It's free online, and yeah, that's my thing.